are live at SMX. Mark, you have been here for more sessions than I have, and I know you want to talk about Will Reynolds' keynote yesterday, but maybe we should start with talking about the connection between SMX and MarTech.
That's a good idea. We should start there. So how about first, Third Door Media owns both MarTech and SMX, run Search Engine Land and MarTech on both editorial sites. But I think the connection is deeper than that. I think we talk a lot about how our audience is all marketers, flavors, different sizes. But I think what's happening here in SMX is kind of bringing that to life in a big way. Well, I'll talk about Will's keynote in a minute, but yeah, there's something going on here with search merging with broader market brand. What do you think? What do you got?
And I think if there's one term that kind of sums up how all of it's coming together, it's AI. It's heard a lot about it in the sessions here. We write about it pretty much on a daily basis on MarTech. So if there's a force that's bringing these two ideas together, right now it seems to be AI.
I wonder how the feed looked because I didn't hear anything you just said.
Oh, yeah. I think your audience
might be okay.
I think your audience. No, I was saying if there's one force that's bringing together the idea of MarTech and search right now, it's AI. It's come up in every session that I heard here at the show. And obviously we write about it on a daily basis at MarTech. So AI is once again front and center of everything going on in marketing.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. So Will did a great keynote. It's online. We'll have to show the link later, but I don't want to go into too much of the details, but he hit on something I think really, really important and really interesting. And I started to draw some conclusions from it that I'll run by you and you can tell me if I'm crazy or not. But basically what he was talking about was from an SEO perspective, how to think about this, AIO and all these things that are happening with AI. It kind of went into this discussion about how LLMs work, reasoning. He and I had this conversation after the keynote, and I said, what you're really talking about is not that SEO is dead necessarily, although it's not looking good, but from an SEO standpoint, as a human, as an SEO search engine marketer, what we're really talking about is customer experience. People typing things into LLMs, getting responses back as a customer experience. It's brand. And I had this thought, it's a weird one. And I've been around a long time. I know you have too, but I'm gonna throw something on my screen here right now. I had this crazy thought that 10 years ago, everybody in the industry was like, Don Draper's dead. But what if Don Draper's back from the dead? Like, what if brand, what if creativity, what if kind of human connections are actually the key to what's about to happen next? And I have some theories on that, but give me your initial reactions to that.
I think brand becomes very important in the sort of AI-driven world because people need to seek email. If you don't want to be completely reliant on the LLMs to find you, your alternative is going to be people still go online for the foreseeable future and look directly for your brand because they know that it is a place where they can get what they're looking for, whether you're in commerce or you're publishing or whatever. The way not to be beholden to the LLMs. So one thing with the LLMs that's so much different from traditional SEO and search, if you held down number one in search, there was a good chance if you kept doing what you were doing and stay abreast of Google's updates, you could keep number one or pretty close to the top. Not really the case with LLMs. You could be cited up top on day one, on day two, be nowhere to be found. So brand is the way around that to make sure people look for you directly and not be relying on the LLMs.
So I totally agree. The second part of my Don Draper is back and brand is back theory is that for the last 20 or so years, performance marketing has been kind of the dominant marketing format, as you say. PPC, SEO. Mike King said something a few weeks ago about how SEO has never really been a performance channel. It's always been a brand channel, but we sort of didn't think of it that way. And so my second part of my theory is that the Don Draper, the ad age, the how do you measure brand, like have those skills atrophied in the current marketing landscape, right? The current average marketer who's 25, 30 years old, who's only grown up in a performance marketing culture, like, do they know how to measure brand? Is that something we remember how to do, or do we need to relearn those skills somehow?
Well, the good news, if you're in that 25 to 30 age group, is that unlike your predecessors, you can measure brand today. I don't think that was really possible um, for a lot of your predecessors, right? It was one of the reasons we shifted so hard to performance marketing was that it was measurable and that we thought we could measure the ROI and see money in and outcomes out. Um, and that sort of put brand on the back burner, right? So you're probably more able to measure brand and see results of your brand performance than ever before. Is it enough for the people who write the checks? I think that remains to be seen. But there's companies doing work in this area. Tracksuit comes to mind as one of them, who, with the help of AI, are trying to help you understand what your brand investment is doing for the business. Like in Don Draper's day, it was a complete liar. Maybe it was working, maybe it wasn't. Everybody's heard the famous line, "I waste half of my advertising budget, but I don't know which half." That was the world Don Draper was operating in, right? And so it's only gotten better since then. The big question is it good enough for the leadership who got reliant on what they thought were accurate numbers on money in, outcomes out in the performance marketing era? And that's going to depend. Depends on who you work for. Depends on the tools you have. Depends on a lot of stuff. At the end of the day, the problem with brand was A, the measurability, and B, the patience that's required to build a brand. Performance marketing and VC-backed startups in B2B sort of went hand in hand because it was about how quick can you grow. And performance marketing at least gave you charts you could put to show the people who gave you the money.
AI is everywhere. It feels overwhelming. It feels exciting. But you've been, obviously you're working with a wide variety of marketers on MarTech.org, SMEs, sponsors and vendors and all that stuff. Like, can we get away from this stuff now? I mean, it's just everywhere, right? Like this is the moment.
I mean, we could look at the Gartner hype cycle and figure out where we are and give us an idea when we could maybe get a break. It's exciting. It's a little nerve wracking. It is, it's going to be the future. And I think that's the point of the Gartner hype cycle, right? It's like everything seems like it's crazy and then kind of calms down and you get to a point where it just becomes the tools you use. The good news with how fast AI is working is maybe we get to that point where it's the way we do our work a little faster than maybe we did with some other technologies that went through their hype cycle.
Do you think that this hype cycle is bigger, smaller, different than previous hype cycles?
I think it's faster. I think that's the biggest difference. I mean, look, there's stuff that people are talking about now, and you go, well, in the future, it's also going to be A, B, and C. But we were talking earlier, the one thing AI is out ahead of, and other technologies have had this problem too, is your security and compliance stuff is one thing, right? All this stuff sounds great now. And it's very accessible now because anybody can go get a Chat GPT account or a Gemini account. But when the info people catch up, which I think some of them are a little bit behind and some of the traditional IT leaders catch up, there's going to be more guardrails put in place, more brakes being applied. I think the HubSpot Chat GPT deep research connector is kind of the latest example of, you can just see the reaction online where people are just like, this is the greatest thing ever. And probably a lot of the early social media reaction was, this is amazing. But followed up very quickly with, hang on a sec. Put all your customer data in the hands of OpenAI. HubSpot's a publicly traded company. There's lots of contracts involved there on what OpenAI can and can't do. I don't think that a lot of the big movers in AI rank very highly on brand trust in general among consumers and users. So that, there's always going to be that sort of cynicism where you say, well, I know what the contract says, but I don't know what they're going to do in real life, because we've already seen that with a lot of companies in AI. So yeah, I think right now it seems like the world is all out in front of us with AI, but I think what we're going to see is some brakes and guardrails get applied along the way, because there's a lot of stuff that just can get out of hand really quickly. The one thing about something that moves as fast as AI is the mistakes and the problems come as fast as the advantages. And some people are going to make a mess. The HubSpot one in particular, HubSpot's sweet spot is small, medium businesses. So people who haven't had access to tools like that, people who are often maybe under-tooled and overworked. And so this sounds great. Like, I could just talk to OpenAI and ChatGPT in natural language and get answers about my customer data. Sounds great, but those small SMBs don't have a lot of the InfoSec guardrails that enterprises have. So it really could unleash a lot of problems. And I think it'll be big news, the first problem that people learn about, and we'll see where it goes from there.
You said InfoSec more times in the last 3 minutes than we've ever said before, which I think is really actually interesting. We were talking earlier, the IT component of this, the sophistication needed to deploy these tool agents or whatever is beyond, I think it's beyond kind of the cloud SaaS. Hey, marketer, throw a credit card in, do your thing.
Yeah.
And I think that starting to see come along. So IT was kind of coming back in a big way.
I know when I wrote recently about Databricks and their product for marketing, the one word I got from Brian Safler, or the one phrase I got from Brian Safler, Databricks was, the battle over marketing data is over in IT. They are the people who know how to keep data safe. They are the people who have the better understanding of the regulations. Gosh, there's a lot of them. So for a while, it was kind of like a lot of shadow people going and buying applications. IT has started to exert more control, maybe not over the applications, but certainly over the data. Because data is the goal, right? The applications are the applications. None of them work very well. Data's not good. So this is sort of data's time to shine. And when people understand the value of the data, the adults in the room get put in charge.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, I'm going to bring up something you sent me the other day. We'll talk about this a little bit. So I think what was your note about this? Was like, this is really nerdy and I would like it. I think that was your.
Yeah. I mean, you're the biggest AI nerd I know. So RAMP has an AI index where actually the headline on this, when I first saw it, was about adoption starting to stall a little bit. You see upper right, the line starts to go flat. You can change this up and look at AI adoption in different industries. You see sort of the same thing. Gives you an idea of who's using it, who's not using it. But look down the right side of the chart. Everybody starts to flatten out, which is have we reached critical mass? Like, is this the end of the early adopters? This is where the people who maybe are a little resistant to change, the people who understand security and data consequences here. But they all sort of do the same thing. They all sort of level up. And it's, it's part of that is the hype cycle thing I talked about, right? That once it becomes how you do things, it's suddenly not such a big deal anymore. It's just the way you work. Maybe we're starting to get there. The question is like, what happens to the other 60% on these charts who aren't using it? Like,
where are they?
Well, are they infinite resistors who are never going to jump in, or are they smarter than us and something we don't? But that's kind of the interesting parts. When do those lines start to move back?
Yeah, you were right. I looked at this quickly earlier today. I am a giant nerd for this stuff, and this is really interesting. The only thing I found, and it's really interesting, every one of these flattens out. All of these, I mean, all of them. Manufacturing's up a little, healthcare's up a little, but there is a flattening, which is interesting across all of these. And I was just scanning these charts to see even large, medium, and small all flatten out. Actually, really interesting. But look at this, and this is one of the things that we should talk about, which is here comes Google. Google's been bumping along the bottom. OpenAI obviously dominating. Claude got off to a hot start. Google's been bumping along, but like, this is you could see the spike pretty quick.
Yeah. And part of the Google thing is, part of that is going to be Google Workspace, right? Like so many companies, Google Workspace now. So it's another tool that's built in. If you're a company that's put guardrails in place, you're like, hey, you got Gemini. That's what you get. The other thing we don't know in this is like who's reporting what they're using, who's being honest. You're supposed to be using Google Gemini or Google Workspace Shop. Do you also have a Chat GPT account? Yeah, probably. Are you supposed to? Maybe not. But Google's got the installed base to be able to say, move from app to app. And your company has basically already said to a certain extent, we trust Google. We're using their tools. They're storing our data.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that Google has that. Chat GPT, 2 years ago, nobody heard of the company, right? It's OpenAI. Like, who are they? And that's another thing. First time adopters, right? Like you are less likely to go to a company you're less familiar with. It's kind of like Google's search dominance paying off in other areas where you go to Google to search, you go to Google for your email, you're going to go to Google for your ad.
Interesting. All right. I got another story here for us. Wait. Was this show? Let's see. I got, oh yeah. All right. Let's read. By the way, I can't verify if we're actually on or not on. Okay. Tried to look, but I couldn't find it. Okay. So you wrote, no, Stephanie wrote this story a couple of days ago. Jumped out at me because I'm really doing a lot of work thinking about B2B pipeline, qualified pipeline, and QL and QA, SQL, blah, 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 blah. Tell me about this article. Like I scanned it this morning, but I know you look at all the stuff. How do strong brands build strong B2B pipeline?
Yeah. So kind of like the Don Draper thing we talked about, right? Brand becomes really important in a world where, I've spent a lot of time marketing to marketers in my career. But I remember talking to the CMO at Qualified a couple of years back. She said to me, marketers are the first people who are going to stop filling out forms. So if you're doing like content syndication, marketers know what's going to happen. They've seen the sausage being made. So they know what happens when you fill in a form and you probably start getting phone calls or emails that you're not ready to get. So yeah.
Wait, real quick. What happens when I fill out a form?
Yeah, you're going to get like phone calls and emails that you,
oh, I am?
Yeah, you are.
Oh no, I don't want that.
No. And that's where brand comes in, right? It's the same thing we've heard about dark social and, evolution of the top of the funnel, where people do a lot of their research beforehand. Great voice on this stuff is Liam Baroni. Is a old school brand marketer. Forgive me, Liam, I'm not calling you old. I'm calling your beliefs and tactics maybe a little older, but still effective, right? Like if you're in the top 3 in someone's mind, when you need a solution that they offer, you're exponentially more likely to get the business or at least be a finalist for the business. And that's brand recall. That is, you have planted a seed in their head, a positive seed, right? We talked a little bit before about OpenAI and people trust the data with the HubSpot connector. You plant a positive seed in someone's mind, and when they get into that motion, I need to buy this or that, you're like one of the 3 brands that comes to line. So basically you jump the line to become a finalist. You're going to go and you're going to do the dark social stuff. You're going to talk to peers and colleagues and groups that you get advice. Brand drives a lot of that. But also goes back to our previous conversation about you can't measure that. So somebody shows up at your site and they're ready to buy, and you go, look, great, this is everybody's problem with attribution. Where did they come from? What did they do? What did they engage with? They may look like they showed up out of nowhere.
Mike, if you can't measure it, that means it didn't happen, isn't it? Isn't that the rule?
That's been the rule, right? In the performance marketing era, that, yeah, like you said, it's like a ghost, right? But that's everybody's problem with attribution. You see more and more voices saying, forget about attribution or take it with a grain of salt. because this is where it becomes so hard to measure stuff. And then, so take this a step further in the world where people are doing their research using LLMs, having your brand out on different channels, different websites, helps get recognition from the LLM. So somebody who's doing research on the LLM is more likely to see your brand if you're showing up on different websites, providing information that helps people answer the questions they type in their prompt. And so there you go. Like it's all becomes sort of brand, right? Like I'm going out there, I'm doing earned media, I'm getting interviews, I'm appearing as an expert. And lo and behold, the LLM see me as an expert, see my brand as an expert. That's like the new way of building brand. And again, all invisible to attribution.
Yeah. Yeah. I zoomed up and highlighted this thing because I'm going to go back to Will's keynote again. Stop where we're not live on that. Anyway, but we're all live on YouTube.
Sorry,
but exactly. We'll repost this, but I highlighted this because in Will's keynote, this is kind of exactly what he's talking about, like too much diluted, repurposed junk. We're a content shop. There's too much of it and all sound the same. Almost literally, Will was saying. And it's really interesting because we have been trained, right? Like listicles, we've been trained to write for machines so that they rank us. And now all of a sudden that doesn't work anymore. But at the same time, we're entering this zone where if we have agents running on our behalf, maybe we should be writing for machines, but maybe writing for machines in the future is actually writing for humans since it's all LLM model based. I don't know. It's very meta, but am I on the right track here, you think?
Well, I think we're writing for machines that think more like humans than the sort of original SEO machines, right? Because they take a plain language prompt and they go looking basically for similar language on the internet to help formulate an answer. So as the machines get closer to humans, what we do to rank and to appear in their results, I should say, instead of is we become more human. And, when you look at a lot of written for bot stuff, my favorite example is recipe sites. Like, it's not a great user experience. To get a recipe for some sort of dish, you have to go through somebody's life story and the reason you do it. And it's, the reason, the background of the recipe and their grandmother made it and all this other stuff. And it's like, I just wanted a recipe. And that's what the LLM does, is it cuts out all this stuff because he said it's writing for humans. It's answering a human generated question with the answer, just the answer, which is, as a searcher, like it's hard to not like the experience because it's hard to go back to, after you look at the ads, here's websites where you might be able to find the answer in the page. I was thinking about this last night, that like the snippets, when Google brought out the snippets, you could sometimes get the answer in the search results, right? Highlighted a line. That was sort of the first step towards this. I feel like it was them recognizing you just want the answer. You don't want me to give you 5 pages that you have to go scan to find your answer.
Depending on your conspiracy perspective, they've been playing this all along, right? Like machine learning is not new. Machine learning about the 50s. We know that.
It's look, it's been evolving all along, but I think that on some level, they always understood that they could do a better job of providing the information people were looking for than they did by giving them a list of pages. The holdup on the Google side was, how do you build a business around that?
That's right.
The speed with which Gemini came out after ChatGPT tells you they had it all along. But it wasn't great for the business model. But you can't sit on it now that a competitor is out. And so it forced their hand. And, the big question about a lot of this stuff is, and this going back to the hype cycle, we've seen this before with a bunch of technologies, is what's the business model? That is the unanswered question at this point. Like, hey, great, I could type something in and get the answer to my question in seconds and probably right or close to right. The deep research stuff, it's great. Given the cost of the back end and the infrastructure, how does anybody make money with this? I said the other day, I think I said it to you, all the communication tools that have come out seem to revert back to email. When Slack let you schedule a message, it basically becomes an email. And people don't reply to Slacks instantly, like was the original concept behind Slack. So Slack becomes email, Teams, whatever your communication tool of choices becomes email. And I wouldn't be shocked if the LLMs end up becoming more like traditional search in that you're going to get your answer, but it's going to be among ads or paid placements of some sort because somebody's got to make money here for this.
Yeah.
Can't run as a charity forever.
Do you think that, one day, can you imagine a day where communications is built into LLMs? Like at some point we should be able to use LLMs together, message each other, either autonomously or asynchronously or real time. Like what if you put instant messenger inside a chat?
It's funny you mentioned that because I spent a few hours over the past week talking to ChatGPT about helping automate some of the steps in putting out a daily newsletter. And I understood its limitations, but I was like, all right, in a perfect world, this is like what I have to do and what I would like you to do to speed this process up. Long story short, we amicably agreed that it wasn't ready to help do this, but it would say like, I can't like send an email.
Yeah. The flaw in my thinking, I got excited about there. Like, what if there's instant messaging inside ChatGPT? But there already is because you're chatting with the machine. So you already are instant messaging with.
Yeah, but I think there is I feel like it would just be like an advanced share feature to be like, put this in Mark's ChatGPT. So when he logs in, he sees this.
Right.
That doesn't seem like that would be a huge stretch.
No, it doesn't. Oh my gosh. All right. I was going to do one more story, but you're long enough. Let's do the most popular feature of the show, which is what's on your feed. I'll volunteer to go first. First, what's on my feed is that MarTech Live is not live at all on LinkedIn. It's pre-live. I don't even know what that means.
It's the starting soon.
Yeah, it's June 13th today at 11 a.m. So I'm not sure what I did wrong, but whatever. Let's go and see what it is on my feed. So I've got, oh, look, hey, me. Dave Davies, who did a great keynote here today about the agentic future. Funny story, really quick. The quote, you see my post here, I wrote, never send a human to a machine's job, which is Matrix. This was, you could see the screen. That was what was on screen when I typed that post out. And then about 3 slides later, he had a picture. So I put it. But let's see. Let me refresh my feed here. I've got, it's all SMX stuff. Look at this, SMX. It's all SMX. Here, Toby. I got a course. Looking for something interesting. Oh, Adriana got a job. That's great. Now I'm about to talk. Look, my whole feed is SMX. That's interesting. Now, the algorithm is really, like, this is wild. Look at this. I got my own signed copy of this book, by the way, Mike.
You're here. Where else are you going to get it done?
Here we go. Tony Byrne, our favorite Tony Byrne. MarTech stack guy. Everybody talks about journeys, but few firms actually created them. Looks like it's coming up. Let's see what I wrap it up. A strategic leap to already channel. Even also has push, paid media. It's all channel stuff. It's interesting. All right, that's on my feed. You want to read? Let me get off my feed. You want to share your...
I got Nick, actually. Nick could my feed. Yes, that's true. Like 2 minutes before we went live, I met Nick in person for the first time. And he's talking about AI mode. And Backlinko. Backlinko's a great site, by the way. And talking about AI mode, which just the latest thing to sort of upend search. And gosh, it's like, what's coming next?
Interesting. Your feed is not all SMX.
My feed is not all SMX because I don't have years in the search marketing space like you do. So Here we go. Here's SMX. Here you go. Here's Toby showing up video of Conductor doing their session. Packed room. A lot of packed rooms here.
Oh, here we go. Ann, what's Ann talking about? We love Ann.
You're never going to guess. Ann's talking about AI.
Oh my God, she is.
Yep. You know, she's bone weary of it. She's tired of wondering Claude can write better than humans. It's the content. The content creation has gotten really tricky, and that's where individual voice, right? Like,
yeah,
it goes back to brand. You know, ironically, we're looking at LinkedIn here, but LinkedIn has been pushing for its own interests, people building their personal brands. Works the same for people in business. If you've got original thoughts and original voice, I just completed the LinkedIn Mastermind program, which, if you get the chance to do it, is great to help you build an audience and understand kind of how LinkedIn thinks, how it promotes content. But yeah, it's personal brand, business brand, kind of all the same. A lot of the stuff that applies to businesses applies to people. And that's sort of a lot of AI driven slop out there. That's the way to get around it, is to differentiate yourself. So, and here you go. It's brand again. Right?
Yeah.
We looked at this one earlier. Stephanie, and here's Liam. I mentioned Liam earlier as a brand voice. He's talking about brand tracking. This is interesting.
Oh, timely. This is what we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. Liam's really good at showing how search data helps you understand how people perceive your brand. So he's a great follow on LinkedIn, and he's a great guy. And you know, he's a great video voice because he's got one of those Irish accents you can listen to all day long. But understanding how search data that, gosh, like just about everybody has access to, whether you're using SEMrush or a similar tool, or whether you're just using your Google data from Google Analytics or from Search Console or whatever, you can really translate that into understanding how your brand competes with other tools. I mean, you can see he's got a consideration funnel here, and there's a bunch of companies that basically compete with each other: HubSpot, Marketo, Salesforce, Breeze, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact. Really interesting stuff, and he does it. You know, he shows you how to do this with like low cost tools, which is kind of neat because, like I said, we have all this stuff. All of the data that surrounds marketers, some of it gets lost in the shuffle. And I think that's something that people miss. There's a lot of data that, just because of the sheer volume of data, you can't react to it or find it or locate it. And that's where AI, everything goes back to AI, right? The AI can help you find the data and make sense of the data at a scale that humans just can't do.
All right, I gotta go. We gotta go because I gotta go use AI some more. So I've been off AI for like, we've been recording for 40 minutes. I haven't touched AI. So
yeah,
I gotta go AI what I gotta go eat for lunch. AI directions to find lunch.
Yeah, let AI tell you what you should eat for lunch.
Probably will. All right, Mike. That's another live with MarTech. Unfortunately, not on LinkedIn this time.
All right.
All right, buddy. Catch you later.